Congress officially certifies President-elect Biden as the fallout from the Capitol riot continues. Are we ready for healing and togetherness? Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Please support the show by liking this episode and subscribing to our channel. We're getting demonetized pretty hard these days, so if you want, support the show on patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. All right. Congress has officially certified Joe Biden as president-elect, and President Trump has said there will be an orderly transition to the new administration. But our nation remains deeply divided over the issue of election fraud. According to a December poll, 97% of Democrats say they don't believe there was widespread election fraud, but 77% of Republicans believe there was. That belief is what brought tens of thousands of Trump supporters to Washington, D.C. this week. In the end, Republican members of Congress challenged the electoral results for Biden in Arizona and Pennsylvania. That was overwhelmingly defeated. Republicans probably would have challenged the results in more states if this hadn't happened. Since our last episode, which we wrote and recorded on Wednesday evening as things were still going on, there have been some updates. For example, we said that one woman had died after being shot. Her name was Ashley Babbitt. She was a 35-year-old Air Force veteran, and police have confirmed that she was shot by a plainclothes Capitol Police officer, and that an investigation is ongoing. And we now know that 3 other protesters died of medical emergencies, including one woman who may have been crushed by a crowd. And one police officer also died after being injured during the riot. The police have opened a homicide investigation. According to the Capitol Police, rioters attacked the police with metal pipes, discharged chemical irritants, and other weapons. As of this recording, more than 50 criminal cases have been opened related to violence during the breach of the U.S. Capitol. And more than 70 other arrests were made by the D.C. police, mostly for breaking curfew. Police also said that pipe bombs were found outside the RNC and DNC headquarters, but it's not clear yet whether these bombs are connected to the Trump supporters at the Capitol. Meanwhile, the fallout from the storming of the Capitol continues. Many Trump supporters were unhappy with the violence. They booed people breaking into the Capitol. As those Trump supporters yelled, it is possible that some of the people who instigated the break-in were Antifa. As we said in our previous episode, this guy is not Antifa. But journalist Andy No pointed out one of the people who broke into the Capitol was a BLM activist who was arrested over the summer for rioting and criminal mischief. But regardless of who instigated it, a lot of real Trump supporters did illegally storm the Capitol. And for non-Trump supporters, it just confirmed the worst things they had ever heard about Trump supporters. And it guaranteed that people would remember this and not this. The Capitol Police are also getting lots of criticism. Authorities say that the Capitol Police weren't prepared for the rioters. A video was posted online that made it look like police just let protesters in the Capitol gates. People on the right said, wait a minute, the police let them in. They're setting them up. And people on the left said, wait a minute, the police let them in. They're on their side. But video from other parts of the building showed that the police tried to stop protesters from going in. Clearly, there were just not enough police officers there. The Capitol Police Chief is now resigning amid criticism. Speaking of resignations, several members of the Trump administration resigned following the storming of the Capitol. They include Education Secretary Betsy DeVos and Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, who is also married to Senator Mitch McConnell. Awkward. Meanwhile, Facebook has banned Trump until the end of his term. I'm sure that won't set a precedent that we'll all regret later. On Thursday, Trump released a video condemning the attack on the Capitol.
The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
Trump also said that it was time to restore calm and ensure an orderly transition so the healing could begin.
My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power. This moment calls for healing and reconciliation. It will require a renewed emphasis on the civic values of patriotism, faith, charity, community, and family. We must revitalize the sacred bonds of love and loyalty that bind us together as one national family.
That echoes what Biden said on Wednesday about working together as a country.
I remain optimistic about the incredible opportunities. There has never been anything we can't do when we do it together.
So, let the healing and togetherness begin. Right after Trump is removed from office using the 25th Amendment. Except Pence is apparently against doing that, as it is probably unconstitutional. The 25th Amendment was originally meant to deal with what happens when a president gets sick or dies, not as a shortcut to impeachment, which means that there's only one solution. Impeach Trump, again, when he has less than 2 weeks left in office. Now, who knows whether Pelosi thinks this is actually a good idea or whether she's just doing some political grandstanding. Either way, attempting to impeach Trump will definitely help the healing and togetherness. You know what else will help the healing and togetherness? Media calling the rioters who stormed Capitol Hill traitors and terrorists.
This is treason. This is treason. This is insurrection. This is rebellion. Period.
That was a terrorist attack on our Congress today in our U.S. Capitol.
Our nation's capital fell under siege by domestic terrorists. Yes, that's what I said, domestic terrorists who had the audacity to call themselves patriots. Take a good look at what they did, and don't ever forget it.
USA! USA! And they just said these guys.
Is that the worst footage that ABC could find? If you're going to call people domestic terrorists and say that their actions should never be forgotten, maybe show something worse than just a heated confrontation with police. Like this BuzzFeed listicle of 29 pictures that show what domestic terrorism looks like in the United States, which include pictures of sledgehammers and ladders, and what BuzzFeed says is tear gas, but actually looks like a fire extinguisher. Yeah, fire extinguisher. Lots of broken windows, broken furniture, fighting with police, and trash. All of this is domestic terrorism, according to BuzzFeed. Of course, when Portland BLM protesters set fires inside a government building last summer, not domestic terrorism. Or when Seattle BLM protesters took over a police precinct, also not domestic terrorism. And when the president tried to label Antifa domestic terrorists, that was called highly problematic. Now, I don't want to minimize the riot at the Capitol. 5 people died. That did not have to happen. But it's also a bit concerning to hear the media throwing around the term domestic terrorism. But what do I know? It's apparently working for them, because CNN had its most watched day in history. Congratulations, CNN. But it wasn't just the media calling people domestic terrorists. Government officials were doing it too.
Those who perform these reprehensible acts cannot be called protesters. No, these were rioters and insurrectionists, goons and thugs, domestic terrorists.
They weren't protesters. Don't dare call them protesters. They were a riotous mob, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists.
I'm not worried. It's not like the U.S. government has ever used terrorism as an excuse to drastically expand government power forever. Okay, but they would never do that again. What's that, Shelley? Mr. Biden has said he plans to make a priority of passing a law against domestic terrorism, and he has been urged to create a White House post overseeing the fight against ideologically inspired violent extremists and increasing funding to combat them. Okay, sounds like a bad idea. Now sure, enacting sweeping new powers when emotions are running high might seem like a good idea when your side is in control, but someday it's going to come back and bite you. So between impeaching Trump and calling people treasonous domestic terrorists, that healing and togetherness thing is going pretty great so far. But I think this actually shows a deeper issue. The division in this country predates Trump, and it will still be there after he's out of office. And it will probably get worse before it gets better. Even if Trump and Biden both talk about togetherness and healing, we can't depend on government officials to heal the country. And we definitely can't depend on the media to help either. They thrive on this division. If we want to heal the country, we have to do the hard work ourselves, with making a choice to see more than one side of an issue, to break out of the black and white, us versus them mentality, to treat people as fellow people and not the enemy, even if we disagree with them. These aren't left-wing or right-wing issues, they're human issues. Healing requires love and kindness, not more hate. So I hope that one day soon, we'll all be able to come together and start the healing by laughing at the people on Twitter who think that this guy's name is Via Getty. Can you believe that? Via Getty. So no more mocking people for their stupid political opinions. A lot more mocking people for their stupid other opinions. I feel the healing beginning already. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.